Hey everybody, welcome to Vidovic Arts. I'm Josh, and today we're working on some heavy weapons specialists, or a Devastator squad, I think they're called. But yeah, we'll just call them heavy weapons specialists for now. Now, there's one thing I'd like to say before I actually get into this. I've had a couple of issues with my printer, so I won't be showing off all the models that come with this. Just the heavy bolters. I did manage to print a heavy, I think it's a heavy plasma gun. I'm not sure. This is what it looks like. This is what it's supposed to look like. I'm not sure what that is, but I've called it a heavy energy gun, so that is also a part of this pack. Let's have a look at what it looks like. Here they are. They look really cool, and you might notice a couple things. One, it's not painted, and the fact that they've got like multiple different colors just from the materials that I'm using here. And there's a couple of reasons why that is, and it's pretty much because I couldn't get the printer to print things properly. And you may have noticed in previous videos that my legs weren't printing properly and a whole bunch of stuff was going on. So I decided to revert to some old school tactics here. I also had a couple of complaints that these files were all separated and they weren't able to print them on their FDM printers. So I was actually proven wrong with the whole, these can only be printed on resin because of how high fidelity they are and how small they are in detail. But I was actually proven wrong over on Instagram. The Instagram user TDB5943, which is it's a bit of a mouthful for a name, but yeah, go check him out. He's printing with only FDM, and he's printing all of these parts separately, and it's not all one piece, and he's able to build up his entire models. And I saw him, and I'm following him, and yeah, he's working on these models, and if you have an FDM printer, you can definitely print up these parts yourself individually. They don't have to be all one part. I will still be making some models that are all together, but seeing this actually inspired me to do what I'm doing right here. So these parts here are actually all FDM printed. The darker colors are FDM printed, and the lighter colors are resin prints. So you can see with the gun, I thought that the gun might be a little bit more difficult to do because of the cable and all that kind of intricacy that's in there. And the heads are, well, the heads are just more detailed in general just because of how small they are. But you can see the rest of it is actually with the FDM printer, and it's really like fine. It's really fine and awesome. You can even see like the plate around the neck is really thin print. That's all FDM, and I'm really happy with it. Now the cloth around the legs on the bottom here, that is all hand sculpted. I have just come to the conclusion that I will probably just hand sculpt my cloth materials from here on in because I hate printing them. Now I can show you the previous model here. This was the cloth beforehand, and it's not bad, but you know, there's something about cloth. I really hate modeling it for starters, but I love sculpting it, so there's kind of a two in one there. Now there's another thing. I have a whole bunch of new legs. You might notice here, these were legs that came from the Halo Marines, so they're using the, you know, the tactical quote unquote look, and they've got the garb around the top with some medieval, I'm not even sure what they are, like leg pauldrons, which they're definitely not called, but that's what I've put there. I didn't mind this look, but when I put these guys on those legs, they looked really short, and I hated it. I actually hated it. And as you can see here, these were painted up. These were from a previous model. I've gone and actually converted that model to have the newer legs, so they are much taller, and I've also gone and added capes that I've hand sculpted. So I have gone back and I've converted pretty much all the models that I started in previous videos, except for my Assault Marines. I've gone back and I have added newer legs, and I've gone and started making my tactical squads. You can see here they're missing a bit of parts, but they are on the move using the legs that I have recently made that'll come with this pack, and yeah, I've gone and 3D printed the backpacks because they were a real pain to print on my resin printer, and I'm using a bunch of bodies that I've managed to get printed on my resin printer. And I'm really happy with the end result. I think they're a bit tall. I think they're probably the scale that Primaris Marines are, but in my opinion, I think they're the scale that they should have been right from the start, because I don't really like the proportions of a Space Marine. They look really somehow short and stocky and chunky, which is, I guess, it's the older look. But nowadays, I think we're going for a little bit more realism. So these guys are definitely more appropriately proportioned, and I think they really benefit from it. They look really scary, honestly, intimidating when you put them next to like another Marine. This is one of the original Marines. I'll just chuck them next to. Just get rid of these guys, and I'll put a normal Marine right next to him, and you can see here just the height difference is quite immense, and he's just got like an intimidating presence. I really like that look. I think it suits for a Space Marine. You just want to have like this, thing that like hulks over the top of normal people. And in the 41st millennium, there's no such thing as normal, is there? But I think that these guys are really cool. So we'll just chuck this guy away, and hopefully I can get these guys painted up for you guys, and we can see how they look. But for now, let's go into how they were modeled. Now, when I was printing these up, so I printed up the pauldrons and the armor and all that kind of stuff, and it wasn't working for me. I realized that the pauldrons were actually not exactly the right scale. They might have fit the arms perfectly, but they just weren't the right height. So they look a little bit shorter than they should have been, so I've gone back and changed the height of those. I just wanted to say that first and foremost, even though we're talking about a different model right now. I went in, and obviously I've had to make a bunch of guns just for these guys to work properly. So you might see a couple guns here. They're going to be for another video. But for now, we're going to focus on the heavy bolter and how I got that working. So I was wondering how I was going to get this to work, because the heavy bolter is basically two arms have to be holding it, and you have to put it all in one go. It's a little bit hard to kind of... I understand how it goes together. I don't have any heavy bolters. I'm pretty sure there'd be multiple parts, like the hand might be attached and to the gun itself, and you kind of like connect it however you want. But with this model, it is all just one piece. You can print the heavy bolter by itself with the belt as well, or without the belt. I've made multiple different variants of these models. And yeah, if you have like an idea of how you want to put this together, it's completely up to you. You could even use the models themselves and customize them in a 3D program of your choosing, if you know how to do that. When we're working on these models, it's kind of all over the place. I kind of just do whatever works best, and I am referencing pretty much from photos of models that are out there. I don't actually have all of these models on hand to reference like I did with the Assault Marines, so these guys might not be 100%. Now, the other cool thing I've added to this was the helmets. We have the original Hospitaller Great Helm helmets, which are pretty much just medieval helmets with a little bit of science fiction added to it, but these ones are definitely, obviously science fiction with their robotic eyes and lenses and all these little attachments and stuff just to the helmets. Now, I got all the inspiration from the Devastator squads from Games Workshop, so if you want to, you could probably just add these to Devastator squads, or you could use some actual models from Games Workshop on these because the sizes are perfect for each other. I have also gone and made some helmets that are like the standard look, so you don't have to print the Hospitaller helmets if that's not your thing. I have gone and customized some of my own helmets that are just completely standard. So that's completely up to you. If you wanna make some normal looking guys, completely up to you. I just thought I'd do that because I've got it and I may as well do it. Now, another really cool thing, I know everything in this one is just really cool. I've been really organizing my file collection system here, and I've decided that I want to make everything released individually later on. So these models will be kind of packaged together, so you'll get the legs, the arms, the shoulder pads, the backpack, the gun, the heads. But later on, I want to have my models be released individually, so it'll just be like Devastator heads, Standard heads, Hospitaller heads. They'll all be their own files, so you can just go over onto my Thingiverse page and find them individually. Now, this is later on I'll be doing that, but for now, all these parts, they're going to be kind of interchanged within each other, so you might find some parts that have already been released, but that's just for now. So we'll be releasing individual things again later on, so hopefully that isn't too much of an annoyance, but I think it'll be better because you'll be able to like go through my page and find what it is exactly that you want. You won't have to download this squad just to get those helmets. You can just get those helmets by themselves. I want to do that once I've got all these models done and dusted, so everyone can just pick and choose whatever they want. But for now, this is what we have, and yeah, I think we did a really good job. Now, the body is really cool. I am so happy with how this body looks. I think I got the inspiration from the Juggernaut from Call of Duty, which is quite funny because it's just it's something so far out of my mind. I didn't even realize it was still there. But the Juggernaut has this kind of armor plate that goes around the neck, and I know it's like kind of a it's just a protective pad. I think it's used by like bomb squads more than you know, people wielding machine guns. But this is basically just a really cool look, and I went down the road of it's such a simple add-on as well. All I did was add a cylinder and change the shape of it just a tiny bit, and it looks really cool. I can't believe it just, I don't know what it is. They just look really chunky and spooky in a way. Not like that kind of spooky, but like scary, intimidating. I've also gone and used some of the shields from previous models and just glued them to shoulder pads and what have you. Like this thing right here, if you can see, that has just been a model that I previously released that came with another model, and this is why I want to have everything separated. But this here, I've just added to add just that kind of little bit of detail, a tiny bit more detail that makes the model look cool. Now when I paint this up, I'll be putting a little shield on there, which will be even more detail. But these are the things I want to have. I want to have a whole bunch of stuff that you can just pick and choose and build your own army of your own choosing. You don't have to rely on you know, downloading multiple different things just to get this one piece. I don't want to have that. I want to have just a stockpile of stuff, and I can't wait to have that, because just going through my files when I was making this, and I've reorganized all my files, like I said, and I was pulling things in and picking, choosing, and I was having a lot of fun, and I can just imagine what it would be like for you guys to be able to just pick and choose what you want to do to make your own completely custom army if you wanted to. I think there's a really huge thing here that I'm just starting to scrape the surface of, so hopefully you guys are excited, because I'm really excited to share what's in store for the future, because I've just been working around the clock on these models. I've been working on a whole bunch of guns, so the guns are going to be coming out. They're just basically the bolt gun, but different variations, and I'll be having multiple guns throughout this entire project. We're going to be working on a lot of guns. There's going to be a lot of guns coming out, so get excited, because I'm pumped. I can't psych this up enough. I'm actually really excited to release models that are going to work for anyone, hopefully. Let's cross our fingers and hope that hopefully you guys like this, because it's taking a lot of time. I'll give you a quick idea of what I've been working on. Here, I'll just move these guys. Here are just a bunch of parts that I've been printing. Now, that's what the legs look like when we print them up on the FDM printer, so they will be coming with a base. Now, the reason why I do that is it helps a lot. You won't need as many supports as you would if you were printing them without the base. But these will come without a base as well. These were previous prints, so we got like shields and some arms. Now I'm also working on gunless arms, so you can place any gun there at all. At the moment, this is what it looks like. Pretty much your stock standard Games Workshop model right there. So they don't come with a gun, and then you can replace them later on with a gun. You've got like little sniper rifles, a whole bunch of little fun things. These were some failed heavy machine guns, but I'm going to be able to convert them later on. You can see you don't need that belt. It can print without it. Pretty cool. Here is another heavy piece that basically is together just to make the print a lot easier. You can print them separately. I will have the files. Everything, if it looks like it's together, there will be separate files of these. But you can see this and this go together quite well. There's a lot of flexibility. All you got to do is glue it together and it'll work really neatly. I haven't printed the guns and the arms by themselves. I've just done the legs, the body, the backpacks, and the shoulder pads, but I'm sure we could print arms separately because, like I said, over on Instagram, if you follow the link in the description below, I'll put his I'll put his Instagram page there so you can follow him. He's printing up all these models on FDM and they're working really well, so definitely go check them out. And you can see here the shoulder pads. I've printed up so many, and the thing is, I printed up these models with my resin printer and they all failed and it just didn't work. I would have had all of these models previously if I had my printer working. Yeah, it would have worked, but I've just gone and had to print them. It does take a little bit longer to print them on FDM, but it's just worth it, just building up this stockpile of parts. And hopefully you guys can see the potential of what you could do here with this kind of stuff. Now, I know I've been rambling on quite a bit, but I can't really express how excited I am for this project. I've gotten more into it, just pretty much because I managed to get the prints going over on the FDM printer. My resin printer, I've had a whole bunch of you helping me out with that, and I'm really grateful for that. So hopefully I can get that working sometime soon. Otherwise I might have to get some new resin, something, I don't know, we'll figure it out. But for now, I'm probably going to start printing parts on the FDM printer so we can see in most likely the next video how arms and stuff work. For me, they might not work, I don't know, we'll find out. I might have to tweak them a little bit. I have tweaked the legs so they will print quite nicely on FDM printers. They shouldn't need as many supports. But that's that. Let's, I haven't painted the model yet, so I'm gonna go quickly paint the model and we'll have a quick squiz at how they look at the end of that. So let's just go through the magical time vortex of film and have the video play of me painting these things real quickly. Now, when I painted this, I've gone for my typical matte black undercoat with just a normal spray can or rattle can, whatever you call it, and I've let that dry, which actually took a little bit longer than I wanted it to, just because it's winter right now. So if you're, having to wait for paint to dry, just, I don't know, put it in front of a heater or something, let it dry out. Don't do what I did. I painted it while it was a little bit wet, so my paint mixed with the spray paint. And spray paint and Citadel paints, they don't work well together. So make sure your paint is dry. Anyways, I went in with a flayed one flesh for my undercoat of that metal, the general armor color. The idea is that their armor is a white, but it's faded over 10,000 years of fighting Nurgle creatures and, trying to work through that entire combat scenario. So their armor is a little bit grungy. And then a little bit more so because we've added that contrast snakebite leather just to make it really dirty on top. Of course, I've gone in with the red on like little decals like crosses, and also the cape and all those kind of things that I want to be red. The crosses, they're a little bit hard to find. I actually didn't realize there was a cross that I'd missed, and I had to come back later on and add that detail in. But with the contrast snakebite leather, that's probably one of the cooler paints that you can use just to bring out highlights. You can also use the Nuln oil, but I've been using this just to bring out a couple of indentations, so it makes it pop here and there. I've also used a gold, you can use whatever gold you want for this kind of stuff, for the eagles and like the shoulder pad top bits, and I'm not sure what to call them. They're pauldron extra plate that's like close to the neck. And on the feet, on the legs, I've made the armor have kind of like this raised look to it, which you can paint whatever you wanted. But I feel like it looks a little bit more like Terminator legs from the original Terminator models. But they're really fun to paint. So it's got this raised indentation so you can paint whatever color you wanted in there. And it looks like a much older variant of Space Marine legs, but that was fun to paint gold. I think it came out really cool. With the snakebite leather, once again, just added that over the top of everything, and I used my finger to kind of brush away excess paint. I know it's not the best method to do because it's very messy and you end up with like a brown thumb, but it does work, and as long as you don't get it in spots that you really can't reach with your finger, it's pretty easy to use. Now, the one thing with the snakebite leather is I noticed if you have a lot on your brush, it's gonna come off a lot on the model, but you can easily brush off excess if you need to, whether it be on the lid of or the lip of the paint tin or the paint tub, or on a rag or whatever, even on your hand if you have to. That's what I tend to do, but I've gotten in a bit of trouble for doing that. But yeah, if you've got too much, you can brush it off. And lastly, or the main last thing I added, was a Ionic Oxide. Well, beforehand I added that bolt gun metal, or the I keep calling it bolt gun metal. Just give me a break. It's the old way of calling it. Yeah, I added that over the guns, and then I went in with a Ionic Oxide and painted that in pretty much over the entire model, pretty much where I thought rot would build up and it would have to be cleaned off. But it's, you know, it's been a long time, so it's built up quite a bit. So it looks really cool over gold stuff, just because the gold has this reflectivity, or it's got that metallic, you know, shine to it. And Ionic Oxide makes things look matte, really matte, not matte black, really matte. So matte being not reflective and not shiny. So it kind of like makes it look really old and oxidized, which is really cool. It's what you want to use for this, if you want to make it look oxidized, that is. Yeah, I've gone overboard with this paint. I've been using it for almost everything, so yeah, that's definitely a heavy part of this scheme. Overall, it's pretty cool. I added in some highlights for the capes, not too much work, and then I just used some PVA for the base. I used the PVA glue, just, you know, just a light little brush with a brush that's completely worth throwing away because I've used too much PVA glue on it. And I used some sand and a tiny little bit of like these fine stones that I like to sprinkle over. And yeah, I pretty much dipped it in the sand and was done. Extra notes, I added the eyes. I added dots in the eyes and whatnot, but this is not a crazy paint job. I don't want to say I'm like a professional painter in any way at all, because I'm not. I just paint it however I feel, and you know, I've used some basic techniques. I think anyone can really pull this off as long as they have the right brush for starters, and just the willingness to try different things, I think, is the key. There's no real wrong or right when you're painting this stuff. As long as you don't add too much paint, you'll be fine. I think you'll be fine. Let things dry as well. That's another thing, because I tend to rush my models and it gets me in a bit of trouble. But I think this is a really easy thing to paint. If you wanted to do this scheme yourself, you're more than welcome to. You can paint whatever scheme you really want to. But yeah, this is where I'm going with these guys. So hope you guys are enjoying that scheme. So that's Sam completely painted up. As you can see, he's very oxidized. He's got a lot of blue, that really light blue, which I am a little bit obsessed with using, to be honest, but I think it looks really cool, especially for the backstory. And with that backstory, I'm actually planning to make a video, just a little like video on the story itself and how the characters are, who they are, and how they came to be. Now, if you've been watching the making of these, you might have heard a little bit of snippets here and there as to how they came into fruition. I want to elaborate more on that. But yeah, these guys came out really cool. Obviously, you don't have to paint them the schemes that they are. You can do them whatever you want. And yeah, let's if you feel like sharing these, if you do make these and paint them up, and you know, or if you print them up and paint them up, be sure to post them over on Instagram using the hashtag Vidovic Arts. Now, you can post them over on Thingiverse as well, but Thingiverse has been a little bit, you know, like this. So I'm 100% going to find your work over on Instagram. So if you use that, definitely post there. Otherwise, that's the end of this video, and I have to say a massive thank you to my patrons over on Patreon for supporting me for making these videos in general, all of them. If you do want to support me, you can head over there and pledge a couple dollars per video or per month, completely up to you. You'll get a couple of extras here and there, and well, you'll have an access to the backlog of exclusive content. So you're not locked into like month by month free access to exclusive models. You just have access to all of them throughout history. So anyway, if you want to head over there, you're welcome to. Otherwise, you're already doing more than enough just by watching to this point right here. Well, I want to have like a little bit of a people who watch this damn far into the video get extra, a little bit more information. So I feel like discussing what I am going to be working on next. So we were talking about the guns a lot. That's definitely going to be a video in the future. It's going to be coming probably the next video. But I'm also thinking about, I've been seeing a lot of these motorcycles that the new Primaris motorcycles are coming out. And I feel like, you know, trying my hand at it. So I might make some motorcycles that are based off of those bikes. So they are probably going to be coming after the guns, as well as a new Dreadnought, which I kind of worked on just while waiting for this stuff to dry. So yeah, those are some things that you can look forward to. And that's the end. Thank you for watching all the way to here, and I hope that news is a little bit exciting for some of you. Feel free to share this to friends that might be interested in 3D printing, and as always, stay awesome, everybody. See ya.